have a very talented Londoner here, a guy called Gary Webster, who you'll know on the TV and films through the years. Great guy, and I'm looking forward to chatting to him. How you doing, Gary?
I'm very well indeed, Bobby. Happy New Year to you.
Happy
Hope
New Year.
everybody's well up in Bunny, Scotland, and pleasure to be on board.
Excellent, mate. Excellent. Well, like I said, for weeks I've been dying to get you on here, and it's so good to have you on. And I've got some questions for you, which I know will be insightful. You've been on a few things over the years, and everyone is, especially my family and folk, are dying to know what you've been up to and stuff. So one of the things I want to ask you, Gary, is what made you want to be an actor?
It's a good question, Bobby. I'm not sure now, looking back. I was very much more into sport. That was my big thing: football, rugby, badminton. I was quite fascinated by the great orators. Maybe that's some sort of connection in so people like John F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. I was always fascinated outside of the school curriculum at those kind of guys. I got into it. Basically, I had a lot of energy, and I was messing about in French, and the French teacher pulled me aside at the end of the lesson and said, "Why don't you channel some of this energy into the school play?" And up until that point at 16, I'd never even thought about it. We used to bunk off a drama because it was the last lesson before lunch, and so we could get to the chippy quicker. So we never went to drama lessons and stuff. So I then did the school play. I went in there and auditioned, and I think nobody else wanted to do it. And once I'd done the school play at 16, I was completely bitten by the bug, as they say. And then I kind of really, I just grabbed hold of it and hung on for dear life. And I was very proactive. So I auditioned for the National Youth Theatre and fortunately got in there. Did another couple of local plays, in the kind of youth theatre mode. And then I applied for drama school. And again, very fortunately, I got in, albeit a year later than I was meant to go. And went to Lambda for 3 years, and the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, good. And I mean, when you first got bitten by the acting bug, I mean, you know that you have been bitten, don't you?
Yeah, totally. I think because it's almost all consuming, and I mean, I don't have a particularly big ego, so I've always looked back on, how did I benefit myself from the applause? And for me, it was always almost like a competitive a slant to it. And the fact is, here is this part. I want to do that to the best of my ability. Can I do that? Certainly in the theatre, can I do that? Get everything right, get all the words right and all that. And it was more of a kind of a battle with myself, whether I could deliver what I thought the part required. The applause and the accolades or the boos and the hisses to me are secondary. Hopefully if I've done it well, people will enjoy it, but it really is it was always been a battle with myself, really.
Fantastic. And I mean, it's so good that you've done really well, since you've obviously from way back in the day and stuff. And I mean it must have been a thrill for you, especially to appear in EastEnders. I mean, was that not your kind of your first real major break?
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky. I kind of left drama school, left Lambda early to do a job up in Manchester, which was great. And then I got on a little role. I was in the first episode of Inspector Morse and did a thing called London's Burning, the original film of London, but only very, into not small parts, no small parts, only small actors. But kind of subsidiary roles, to support the group, as it were. And and then suddenly I found myself in going up for a role in EastEnders. I managed to get it. It was playing Barry's brother, and that really was at the time. I think that was in '87 when EastEnders had really hit big time. This was in the era of 26 million for watching Den divorce Angie and all that. So it was an incredible experience to go in to something that was already so popular, and to almost know that when you would be seen on that show, you know, the next morning you might well be recognized, you know. So, but as I wasn't a lead character in it, it was a nice, easy way to go into it. You know, I didn't go into it in a big blast. So it was an interesting then to develop how one would deal with being recognized, and, you know, the benefits and the pitfalls of that. So it was it was a great experience, and everyone was wonderful. This is back in the day when you rehearsed your episodes at EastEnders.
Yeah.
So 2 a week, and yeah, it was fascinating. But to see the impact that characters like Nick Berry, who was a very good friend at the time, and Gil Talforth and Dan and Ange, to see, you know, the impact, the amazing kind of interest they had in them was, yeah, I think I might have struggled at the time, you know.
Yeah, but it's I suppose when you first kind of came into it, it was kind of like a learning curve as well for you when you came in. And
totally, you know, and also coming from a background of theatre predominantly, you know, one realised pretty quick when you're doing regular television that, you know, you have to bring it down, and you know, just as a learning curve for my technique. It was fascinating because, you know, it's readily available. It's not like making a film which you could make and then maybe a year later you'll see it. With EastEnders at the time, if you made it, I'm sure it's pretty same now, that, you know, 4 to 6 weeks later you're seeing what you did, you know, and so you can learn very quickly to say, boy, I'm moving my head too much there. Like that, straighten up, still, you know, try and push my legs together because I'm very bandy. I'm like a Robert Duvall, and, you know, walk straight and walk taller. So all that kind of, just the technique of television. You kind of get an instant blast of it. So it was, yeah, it was a great experience, and everyone was lovely up there.
Fantastic. It's just how you said it. It kind of painted a nice little picture of how things are, and, you know, like how you're meeting, like, say, Gillian Telforth, Nick Berry. Yeah. Even you'll probably see like, say, Adam Mujat and all Steve McFadden. Yeah. These people that have, you know, and, you know, but when you first kind of watched yourself 4 weeks later or whatever, like when it came on the TV, how did you feel after seeing yourself?
Depressed. Awful. Oh, God. There was only one thing to do, and that was to go and get hammered. That was it. No, I mean, I don't know. Everyone assumes they're going to look like Steve McQueen and have the, you know, the coolness and the laid backness and the acting integrity of Olivier. And what I saw on there was Gary Webster, and that's not what I wanted to see. So and I've done that ever since. Just go and get hammered. No, I don't tend to watch, and if I do, I have to try and really persuade myself that I'm watching as a bystander, not with me, because I think, you know, if you care about anything, you know, you want to make it as good as you can. And unfortunately, but you have to learn to let it go, which is something I learned in Minder. But so it's never what you assume it's going to be like. And so you know, but no, I wasn't happy. But, you know, once you get out and people say, "Hey, you're that geezer off of EastEnders," I could live with that. If they bought it, then I could buy it, you know.
Fantastic. And you know what's really good? I mean, since I've actually started this, I think you're the third EastEnders actor I've interviewed on here, or ex-EastEnders actor, because you've had Casey and you've had Jack Ryder, and then now you yourself. So, I mean, they were a pleasure to speak to, talk to as well. How long were we actually on?
I was just going to say that I think, you know, the soaps, you know, are such great, and things like The Bill and Holby and Casualty, and these long-running series are great feeding grounds for young actors to cut their teeth on, you know, learn their craft. And as a collective, you know, the pressure is not necessarily on the individual, it's on the general show. And I think, you know, thank goodness that we excel in them in this country, because it allows young talent to come through and make mistakes, as we all do, and learn. So, 3-4 years later, they can get out there, they can be the lead in a series and take on that mantle. So I'm a great believer in them. I mean, the first time I was in it for about 3 months, and I worked with lovely Michael Cashman and Gary Hales as my brother. I played the brother of Gary, who was going out with Colin at the time. So I think it's the first same-sex relationship on British TV, or certainly on the soap. So it was a real pleasure and honour to be part of that groundbreaking story, and I look back upon it with great fondness and pride that I was a part of that team that kind of broke down some big barriers,
Absolutely. And obviously, I mean, times were changing back then, and things had to be up to scratch with how like people's attitudes towards like same-sex marriage partners and stuff. And you know what? I mean, I don't really watch a lot of soaps, but at Christmas time, I watched Coronation Street for the first time in a long time. And I noticed what they've did, and I'm not sure they're doing it in other soaps, is they're actually kind of, in the actual soap itself, you actually see the actors wearing the masks and stuff, like because COVID.
Yeah. Well, I think it's continuing drama, as they call it, or recurring drama, should be reflective of society that we live in. And I think that's where our soaps have always, been the forerunner in that. I mean, with the Americans do a fantastic glossy, kind of more stylized, specialized area of society. If you look at Dallas and Falcon Crest and all these Dynasty, but I think ours reflects what's actually going on in society. So more power to it. We're going through a pandemic. People are dying. People are struggling. Mental health. Et cetera, and they're there to reflect what we're going through as a nation and as a people.
Exactly, and it's quite interesting that you picked up on all those great shows over the years, like The Bill, and obviously we've got the soaps like Corrie, EastEnders, Emmerdale, and and you actually appeared on Taggart, didn't you, on a few episodes?
Yes, I did. I was fortunate to go up to her. Oh, what happy days! If only I could remember them. But I know this was back in the days when Taggart was like over 3 episodes.
Yeah. So
the storyline would evolve over 3 episodes, 3-hour-long episodes. So I was very fortunate to be cast in a 3-episodic storyline of the Taggart. So I went up there. So I was up in Glasgow for about 6 weeks, and I always remember that. This is back in the day when production companies were proper, So what they did, they sent you your fare, and so I flew up there. You flew up because I think I was the only guy that was based in London in it. Jill Gascoigne was in it, and then I was flown up, and so I fly up, attend the read through, and David O'Hara was in it, John Hannah, John McLean. I mean, this was a really good young actors, along with people like Jill Gascoigne and, of course, Mark McManus and et cetera, et cetera. So we did the read-through by 1-2 o'clock, and then like John Hannah, David O'Hara said, "What are you doing now?" So come on, Englishman, we'll take you out, whatever, because some of us know Glasgow. My flight was for that night on the Friday back about 5 o'clock. I think I caught the train on Monday morning. I was out then. Those boys they took me out, and I didn't manage to get home for another 3 days.
Oh wow!
So it was a wonderful night, come weekend of, and I think I'd almost done all my expenses in that time as well for the whole 3-4 weeks. So I have again fond memories of that. And John Hannah and David O'Hara were fantastic.
So when you went up, did you not find it a bit of a culture shock to yourself? Like,
no, people. I mean, I'm sort of a working class lad, all up in pubs and clubs. The accents are different, but the mentality and the attitude and the friendship and the friendliness is all there. And after a few pints, it was game on, and we had those boys took me to a few places, and we went out and had a good drink, and it was lovely. And it kind of bedded in then. So so then we was filming over the next, as I say, 4 or 5 weeks or whatever. It was great, and this is back in the day. There was only one caravan, so we was all in it. And Mark McManus was delightful. When he heard, I think on the second day that I was trying to book into a hotel because I'd missed my flight back, he said, "You can come and stay with me if you want." And I said, "No, I'm all right, mate." But he was just, I was this young actor from London come up, but he was fantastic. And it was my love affair with Glasgow and Scotland has been there since. So, I love the place.
Brilliant. Now, you've obviously, you're really well known, obviously, in acting circles around Britain, but you're probably best known for playing Arthur Daly's nephew, Ray, in Minder. Yeah. Now, when you got approached to be in Minder, obviously, to replace Dennis Waterman, I mean, what was the response you got? Because I know lots of big Minder fans, especially some that like Dennis Waterman, and obviously some that like yourself. But what was the response like from some of the people that when you joined?
Oh, well, to be honest with you, the producers at the time were very, very smart. What happened was, I think Dennis and George were going to do another series. Mm-hmm. I think Dennis pulled out at the last moment, expecting the series to just be folded. I think it'd been at the top for 10 years. They've been doing it for 10 years. I think the producers or, at Thames were a little bit miffed that things had happened so late in the day about whether they were going again. So they went to George and said, "What happens if we get you a new Minder? Dennis isn't doing it." And he was reticent about that. But he said, "Well, if the scripts are good and the actor's okay, I'll have a look at it." Mm-hmm. So they got a great writer called David Yallop on board and had a new, fresh producers on board, executive producer and lead producer in Toynton. And they came up with 2 or 3 scripts that George thought were fantastic. And so then they set about casting me. So after a period of 3 or 4 interviews and a screen test, I got the job. But they were very smart in the respect that they didn't give it a complete, change of clothes. They kept the things that the public wanted, which was of course, Arthur Daly, the Winchester, Dave behind the bar, Carlot, Lock Up, all those things that we were familiar with. And I was too. I was a massive fan of it. We used to watch that as, kids growing up with my mum and dad, So they kept all the elements that we wanted to, and all they did was insert, and they put it under the coverage that it was family. I was family. Terry had left. He was vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And then out of the blue, this family member who's quite handy with his fists and all that, and they formed a relationship. And I've always equated it to the fact that I think it, whereas Terry and Arthur were like husband and wife bickering towards the end, Ray and Arthur were like father and son. Mm-hmm. So in actual fact, you could almost have Ray and Terry in the same episode. So it wasn't a direct replacement. It was an additional character. And I think with all the other elements that were stayed in the show, I think it worked for the public. And, I did episode 1 and it came out. Everyone was happy. So, yeah, it was great.
I mean, did they ever think about bringing maybe, say, Terry back for 1 episode? Have you been in?
As I say, I'm sure that both characters could have been in the 1 episode. I don't think that would have been on Dennis's agenda. I can't speak for him. I don't know him. I met him once at a golf do. But I think maybe when he left, he might have believed that was it. No more Minder. And so to then come back into it might have reflected an attitude that he maybe didn't want to portray, which was, they can do it without me, Yeah. So, it never bothered me. A lot of people, I think him included, said that he thought the pressure might have been too much for me. But if you were, searching for angles of why it did work, if anyone who knows me knows that right from day one, There's pressure. Working, 18 hours at West Middlesex Hospital is pressure. Being a teacher is pressure. Being an actor ain't pressure. It's to be enjoyed. So, I think, I would have been quite happy. Because, being a younger man, I could have taken him, no problem.
You know what? It's like, I love the both of yous in the series, and I love the series itself, and I just, what I like about watching Minder, especially, it takes you back to like the late 70s, early 80s, like especially in the earlier series, and it shows you, it's good to see London, a real working class part, just how the buildings were. And I think back in the times, I could remember the late 70s. I remember the early, I was just a young lad at the time, but I remember times were great, but sometimes they could be quite bleak as well.
Sure.
But
and I think that was the importance of series like that, is that they did reflect the bleakness, but they saw humor in it,
Yeah, of course.
Things like Fools and Horses,
brilliant.
Minder, it kind of captured the zeitgeist of what was happening on the streets, and that even though in adversity, and I'm sure it's the same, I think why it's so popular universally, not only nationwide, UK-wide, but also internationally, is that everyone kind of could experience that. You don't have to be in London to have an Arthur Daly in your family. You don't have to be a Londoner to have that. You can be in Glasgow, you can be in Edinburgh, you can be in Cardiff. It covered all races, all genders, all creeds. If you're in an Asian family, people would come up to George and go, "My cousin's just like you, Arthur." So we went to Australia. They loved the show because they said every other person that they knew in their family was like an Arthur Daly. So there's an Arthur Daly in every family you can, in every diversity, race, creed, colour, nationality. And I think everyone could relate to it, And I think those shows are kind of like they're the bedrock of what we do quite well in this country, And as I say, I'm not so sure we have the actors or necessarily the stories or the series now to tap into that at this present time, because times are tough, it'd be nice to see.
And you know what? It's fun. It's funny that you said that as well, because I suppose the nearest thing, especially to watching because I used to love all these hard-hitting dramas from like the 70s and 80s. And obviously, I love Minder. I love the Sweeney, the Professionals,
Yes.
But the thing is, obviously, with how things are as well, just with the PC correctness and stuff, they probably wouldn't, it'd probably be a wee uproar. I used to love watching Life on Mars. I love that show.
Yeah.
And it's like, it kind of portrayed the language, not because of the show, but just how things were back in the day.
Then, yeah.
But
I think there is room. I think there is room to bring things up to date. People have always said to me, well, could you do Minder now? I said, yeah, you could, but it would have to be, to reflect what's going on in London. If you said it in London, what's going on now? So it would have a much more diverse and equality-based feel to it. But if the writing's good and the storylines are good and all that, then of course it can accommodate that, but it wouldn't be necessarily reflective of the 70s, 80s and the early 90s. But by the 90s, if you look at some of the shows that were happening in Minder, I can talk specifically, some of the storylines, some of the dialogue, some of the language in 79, 80, 81, compared to 91, 92, 93, you could say the 90s ones were so much more PC than the late 80s, the late 70s, early 80s ones. So it had evolved, and it has to evolve, because society's evolving in the correct way, So, yeah, it was, the only thing I always had used to have, George Cole always taught me about focus and conservation of energy, long days, that's all you're paid to do. Don't get down if you do one bad scene that you're not happy with, because in filmic terms, you have to move on. It's whether the lighting's right, sounds right. If it's all good, you have to move on with it. Don't take that into the next scene. But he always used to say to me, always, you know, if you're going to say something, let's rehearse it. Let's rehearse what you're going to say. So I said this thing once to him where I was in a nightclub and he was getting a bit frazzled. So I just said to him, hey, Arthur, just chill out. So we did that rehearsal before we did the tape. He went, oh, because what I was supposed to say was calm down. But I, you know, being the London, I was like, just chill out. So he said, what are you saying there? Chill out. I said, well, that's kind of what we say on the street after the moment, you know. So right. So when we shot it, when we turned over and did the tape, I said to him after, because, you know, just chill out. And he was like that. I'm not even cold. What are you talking about? So he could buzz off that, you know. So they took that take and used it, and it was nice. But that's all he would say. Is if you've got any things happening, anything you want to slot in, go through it with me first, and so we can. I can react.
My God! You know what, as well, Gary. You know what it's like to work with someone like George Cole. Must have been solid gold, eh? Yeah,
I mean, he wasn't someone who would say, "Don't do it that way, do it this way." But you just watched him. You know, as I say, preservation of energy. When you have to turn it on, you turn it on. You know, don't be chatting to everyone. The bon vivant, because your energy is being diffused. Then get on set, do what you're being paid to do. Get there calmly, serenely, and if you have to turn on, you've got to act like a mad axeman, or you've got to tell the person that you love them passionately and all that. That's what you get paid to do. When you come off, go back to your caravan, Winnebago, free play position, and cool, relax, focus again. You know.
Yeah,
because as a young actor, one tends to want to chat to everybody, and all that energy kind of gets diffused, you know. And I just watched him, and that's what I've taken with me for the rest of my career.
Must have been brilliant just to even listen to him, you know. But you know, talking about Dave, what's his name? Glenn Edwards.
Glenn Edwards, yeah.
He actually, just before he passed, obviously, he actually moved to Edinburgh to live.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Glenn was absolutely delightful. I mean, you know, as soon as I walked in, I was, you know, there was a few old school there who had worked on the series for the previous 10 years, some of the supporting artists and all that. You know, so I was expecting someone who might go, oh, Dennis, oh, sorry, Gary, or hey, it's Eric, oh, Ray, right. But Glenn was fantastic, you know. Hi, Gary, welcome to the show. Never got my name wrong once, straight away with the raise and all that. And I was just, and for me, I'm working with people that I've grown up and watched. You know, Glenn Edwards was in Zulu, Glenn Edwards was in Get Carter. Yeah. And now I'm working with him. George Cole, I mean, all the, you know, Michael Gambon came in and did an episode. Pete Poth, you know, I'll mention later. But I'm working with all these people, and I'm just like having to keep my cool. Because really, I want to walk out the set and go, whoa, you know. But, you know, I think keeping you cool and keeping it, you know, not sweating too much is all part of being an actor, certainly on screen.
Fantastic. Yeah. Honestly, I absolutely envy working with these guys, honestly. But, I mean, over the years, I mean, you played, obviously, different roles and stuff. I mean, one of the roles that he did play, obviously, he played a drugs baron on the bill. How did you feel about doing that? I mean, when you got approached to do that?
I always used to say, at last, I found the role I'm best suited for. But some people mistook as me thinking I was a drugs baron, but I was only kidding. But no, I changed my suit. I sometimes play a policeman, I sometimes play a villain. I just play them the same, but with my suit, different suit. my range is not that good. No, I you know, it's like, I think there was somebody said the other day, you know, that I seem to have a personality that is quite chirpy and positive, but I do kind of like enjoy playing the tougher roles because I'm a great believer in, you know, physically I'm not, you know, not the face. I might have a casting on Monday, but I like to convey that kind of inner anger maybe. So, you know, I thoroughly enjoyed that. You know, it was a you know, as long as the part is that you can get your teeth into it and something that, and then you try to include things that maybe aren't so cliche, you know. So I always try to look for the other side of a character rather than just playing it cliche hard, cliche tough. cliche in love, just bring other elements to it. I mean, I tend to always underplay rather than overplay, So, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was a year-long kind of storyline of which I did about 15 episodes, and people seem to have remembered it, which I'm proud of, but I'm surprised at because, there's so many episodes of the film. But I mean, when we left drama school, we, sort of getting the theatre job's fine. Television, if you can go through a period of time when you haven't done much or you haven't been on screen, and people then, it kind of goes against you. So after 3 years, and people say, well, what, you go up for a telly, and they go, what telly have you done? Yeah, I haven't worked in telly. They start to go, why haven't you worked in telly? That's strange. Well, and then it kind of is a self-defeating thing, because it could be you just haven't been up for it, but they start to think, well, why haven't you been up for it? Why haven't you done it? So right from the get-go, I put down, and me and a couple of pals from drama school, Pete in the Bill and Michael in the Professionals. We'd never done the Bill of the Professionals, but we were banking on the thing that there's so many episodes of these things, no one could ever remember whether you'd been in the Bill or not. So if they was ever going to say, what was Pete? Remember there was a gang of kids? And went, oh, yeah, okay. So at least it said you could do TV. So that would be a tip for any young actor coming out. Lie on your CV on a show that's had plenty of episodes. Casualty and Olby. No problem. Mr. Jones in Casualty. Who's going to check that?
Brilliant. It's such you've had varied roles, mate. Honestly, it's really varied. And it's like, you seem, I mean, you're just you're a young man, but you seem like you've been on the TV for years and years and years.
Yeah, I think people are totally sick of me. No, I thought he'd gone. He would go through tough times, isn't he? Shouldn't he be doing something else now? Shouldn't he be building walls somewhere? We've had enough. No. Go, Webster, get out of town.
Oh, that'd be daft, man.
I can't let him go.
Brilliant. Honestly, you're top class, mate. Honestly. Now here's a question for you, right? If you didn't become an actor, and maybe wanted to do another job any type of job, was there anything you wanted to be or anything you wanted to do if you didn't do it, like acting or that?
That's a difficult one. I don't know, Bobby, to be honest, because I found acting when I was bitten by the bug at 16. Although I wasn't interested in it as a kid, but once I'd found it, I knew it, and that was a kind of very important time then in one's life, at 16, 17, 18. You're kind of thinking, where do you want to go? University, this, that, or just get out, do an apprenticeship. And because I was all consumed by it then, I never had any sort of chance to think about other work, or what would I do? And because I was very lucky and things seemed to snowball for me at that period of time. But I guess from where we were back from East London going out to Essex, the general consensus was that most people probably like me, which was a bit chippy, bit chirpy, bit Barrow boyish or whatever, that you go and work in the city, probably go. My dad had many jobs, but he was working at a metal broker's, like on a dealership or whatever. So I would have probably gone into the stock, exchange as it was back then, something like that, which was full of people like me who weren't actors. But so it would probably, commuter belt, that kind of thing. I can only think that's probably where I'd have gone. Probably not being very happy, probably being more financially secure, but but later on, I like politics, I like teaching. So, it opens up because, I'm at that period of time now where I, want to give back to certainly within the artistic field of and with experience. So, who knows where I'll go. But at the moment, the work seems to be there. So, but I have no real idea what I would have done.
Can you not see yourself in the House of Commons getting up?
Oh, yeah, I see that. I definitely see that.
Just grilling.
Oh, please.
Grilling
give me
Boris.
Johnson just for one question time, man. You give me in just for one question time. 30 minutes, 6 questions. That's all I require. We'll have him out.
Brilliant. Just tear him apart, mate. Honestly, tear him apart.
Mm.
But if you know what, here's another wee question. If you obviously I've seen you play different roles over the years and stuff like that. What role would you have liked to have played, but you've not did yet? You know, maybe some kind of role which you maybe thought, I'd like to do that. I've not done that. I'd like to do that.
Okay. Because I thought about this. I would like to have a crack at a kind of a Liam Neeson Taken role. That I'd like, which I think combines passion about family, the will to do the right thing for the right reasons, a bit of the old stage fighting and stuff, bit of aggression, but kind of coming from the right moral compass. So something like that. I'd like to have a crack at that.
You know what? I'm actually surprised you haven't been asked to do something like that, because I think you'd be brilliant in a role like that.
Yeah, I mean, I fancy my chances of that. I think I could deliver on that, something like that. But there's many others out there who are way up the list on that. So, you know, but if I had a little sneaking, one more. If someone wants to offer me that type of role, just underplayed, but you know, determined to do the right reason. As I say, for the right moral reasons. And that kind of like the backing of that I'm doing it to. Yeah, I would have fun doing that.
You know what? Yeah. That's what I'm saying, Gary. I could see you doing that. I could see you smashing it. Absolutely smashing that. I really could, mate. No problem, mate. Now, obviously, when you were younger and stuff, and obviously, I mean, you must have watched a lot of films and stuff when you were younger. And
absolutely.
Now,
I'm obsessed with them.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love films. You know, I absolutely love films. But I mean, was there any did you have any favorite actors? You know that inspired you?
Okay, you know, it's where to start, where to finish. You know, I mean, I was totally obsessed with films, and the history of film, and you know, having the knowledge of all these actors that went before. You know, so it's hard. I mean, film-wise, going to see Jaws for the first time for me. You know, forget about the shark and that premise.
Classic film.
The acting, fantastic, and the thrill of being in the cinema as the lights went out and the curtains open. I get as big a buzz on that as I do from theatre. Queuing to get in, we couldn't get in the first time, but Robert Shaw and Dreyfus and Schneider and just in general, you know, and then as you get older, you hear Olivier. I remember when Olivier died, they played him doing one of the great speeches. It could have been Henry V in St. Paul's or Westminster Abbey where he was buried or whatever. And I listened to it on the radio, and I never really listened to Olivier before, and I understood every word. And then you get interviews up with Olivier and all that. All of them fantastic. McQueen or Sidney Poitier and Newman, Redford, all across the board. You know, Connery. You know, and I think it's very valuable for any actor, male or female, actor or actress, to know the people that have preceded them. You know, because it gives us a benchmark and it gives us an insight to what they needed to do or how they approached the work. Because as Olivier said, you know, we nick everything. We steal. You will, you know, if you say, I'm basing this character on that person or seeing that, I'm stealing from that person. So to have a knowledge of, historical actors and what they did and how they broke through the thing way back 40s, 50s, you know, Cary Grant, this and that. So I love all of that, you know, and sometimes, you know, you get the chance to, I work with James Booth on Minder, and Booth played Hookie, who won a Victoria Cross in Zulu, say, you know, fantastic performance, you know, and there you are working with them, you know, and it's like, you know, I knew him, and I had, you know, I've gone up to many older actors and actresses and just said, just to be here on set with you is enough for me. You know, the fact we're going to be acting in a scene together, amazing. And they're quite taken aback because I guess some people haven't said that for a little while, but boy, I know them, and I just can't. I have to do that, you know.
Oh, yeah. And it's like, I mean, when
If
you
I
watch
lose that thrill, I'm lost.
that's what I'm saying, though. But I mean, it must have been a big thrill for you, you know, to watch even like a film like Zulu and seeing an actor like that, and then you're actually standing next and you're working with them. That to me,
Oh,
it's a
well, as I
thrill.
say, I worked with Michael Gambon. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Gambon, they're brilliant, hilarious between takes,
Mm-hmm.
hilarious. You know, you think, oh, they're going to be in character, just cracking jokes. Pete Postlethwaite.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with Pete Postlethwaite on an episode of Minder, Kaiser Soze, numerous other roles. You know, Spielberg Love. Wow, how lucky am I? You know, Susanna Doyle. You know, just actresses and across the board that you know, I never stop touching wood and saying, well, you know, if it finished tomorrow, you know, it's been great.
Oh,
I hope it continues and it will be better. But, you know, I've been very lucky.
I think you've kind of maybe covered most of the next question. It's like, what actors and directors like did you enjoy working with? You know, obviously you say James Gambon.
As I say, those actors and actresses, you know, did a thing called Real Women with 5 great actors: Leslie Manville, Francis Barber, Michelle Collins, acted on stage with B.T. Edney. I loved work with Phil Davis, who's the actor but also director on Real Women, which was a real thrill. Phil was in Quadrophenia. I worked with a director called Gordon Fleming on Minder, and Gordon I loved working. He was the kind of director, and he'd gone to the States. I'm not sure Gordon wasn't Scottish, in fact. And his son, Jason, now is a very well-known actor, Jason Fleming. But Gordon was a producer's nightmare on something like Minder, because if he'd done all the work at 4 o'clock, he wrapped at 4. And they didn't like people to wrap early, so he had to stay till 7:30, find something else to do. But he'd dig his heels in and go, no, we're done. I'm happy. And for us, the actors on the crew, he was a dream. But he was a character, irascible, just a wonderful. And if you know, he's one of those directors that you look to if you've done it correct. You know, if you got his approval, it made the world of difference. He's like a great teacher. You know, if you got that mark, and some teachers you had at school, they said, well done. You was like, yes. And Gordon was like that. So you know, you'd love to work with Scorsese or Spielberg or any of these directors. Steve McQueen, the director from England and Britain. But just generally, you know, I've been fortunate. And of course, you work with a lot of actors who go on to do fantastic stuff as well. So certainly on something like Minder. So yeah, been lucky.
Fantastic. Just as well, I asked you that question because I don't think I would have asked you the question which actors and directors you didn't like working with, you know, but sorry, you don't need to name drop anyone.
No, George Cole I always had a phrase of because every series I did 36 episodes out of the 100, so I did quite a fair amount. But he would also say that when people say, oh, do you get director approval? He'd also always say, no, we don't get director approval, we get director disapproval. So he would say, not coming back. So, but you'd never let anyone know that. But, you know, so it was always more director disapproval. If they kind of, you know, it's very difficult though for anyone new coming into a kind of family of you know, that's going a well-oiled machine. But no, it's only acting. I always say it's only acting.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Yeah, I tell you, this is so, honestly, so great. Just listening to all these stories here is fantastic. Now, if you were to go back in time, Gary, to the start your career as an actor, now would you do anything different to say what you've done? Thanks from when you started.
Looking back, no. I mean, I like, it's difficult. I mean, I've made certain decisions that I could look back and not necessarily regret, but think, oh, that could have taken me in a different direction. But also those decisions have taken me down a probably not so advantageous direction that has actually been more personally rewarding to me. You know, So it all balances itself out in the end. And I truly believe, that it's whatever you make them at the time, and there's a learning curve. So you can only do what you can do and make those decisions, and you can only put yourself in the mix to get that extra bit of luck. If you're in the mix, if you're in it, you can win it. And apart from that, I've try and choose quite well the roles I do. I try and, make sure that I can have a look at that and bring something to the party. And if I can't, I'll kind of say no. But listen, who knows? You are where you are, and that's, I don't have a good enough memory to look back and see the mistakes I've made or the good things I made. My memory is absolutely hopeless, which my wife will verify. I'm hopeless. She'll say to me, "Do you remember being on stage with that person when we did that chat?" I go, "No, I've never met that person in my life." She said, "No." I mean, these are big people. I partied a lot in the from about 85 to 95. I went really out of it, so I had a good time.
Brilliant. Well, that's what it's all about. And, it's back in the days where, it's, I mean, obviously I never had any internet or never had any social media. And, it's, I mean, you've filmed, you've been in lots of stuff, lots of things, obviously, without the use of, obviously, social media back in the day and stuff.
Sure.
And, so, I mean, nowadays, I think a lot of people kind of maybe try and get their way through social media to kind of, to get where they want to be, practically.
I think people use it far better than I could even contemplate using it. I see it as a tool to hopefully bring some fun and laughter and be critical of certain things that are going on. But no, I look back. I don't look back with any regret. I don't look back and think, "Oh, I wish I'd done more there." I pretty much lived it as positive. And going forward, I want to continue that, but I don't necessarily, search for the parties and all that now, because I've done enough. So I'm quite happy for my kids to go out and enjoy their journey. I'm not someone who is going to hit a middle-age crisis and go, "Oh, I want to go partying again and I need to do it." I did it, and I'm glad I did it, and I'm happy with that. I don't need to relive anything. I need to live going forward, which is great, and enjoy this period of time and laugh and parts and all that. But no, I don't look back with any regrets, because if it was to be done, I probably did it and had a fantastic time doing it. I think one of my greatest claims to fame is that I'm in Steve Strange's autobiography. I was so happy with that. So
absolutely brilliant, mate. Honestly, well, that's to be in Steve Strange's autobiography. There you go. And he was like an icon of the 80s, Steve Strange as well.
Yeah, well, he kind of, I met him in the late 80s, early 90s, and I really loved Steve. He was a great guy, and we got on very well, because he'd seen it all before, and so had I, and I was down to earth, and so was he. And so we had, and I featured in one late night that he had, and I rocked up with someone. So it was, it was fun to be included. He told me, "You're in my autobiography." I was like, "Oh my God, I'm retiring. That's it. I've done it now. I'm retired."
That's absolutely fantastic, Gary. Well, Gary, mate, honestly, we've kind of covered everything now, honestly. And
cool.
You know what, mate? Obviously, it's great having you on my Twitter family and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the happy Fridays and stuff. But I tell you what, mate, honestly, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, that's great. And you, Bobby. It's lovely to hear voice and face, and really has. It really has been delightful.
Absolutely. And it's just been, honestly, I'm on a wee journey here just with my podcast. And obviously, I'm an actor myself, obviously. But just be doing this. It's been fun just talking to so many people on here. And it's been amazing. And honestly, today, you've totally made my day. It's been absolutely fantastic, mate. It's been, sorry about the wee glitches earlier on.
There couldn't have been a lot going on in your day if I made your day.
That'd be daft, mate, honestly.
I was in bed sleeping.
No, mate. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Oh well, it's my
Honestly.
pleasure as well,
And
Bobby. So
I'm sure we'll talk again sometime at some point as well.
anytime, anytime, and whenever you're in the vicinity, if you're down south or I'm up, in the north, we'll bell and
Give me a
and
shout.
have a beer.
You know what? When I'm down London, because I mean I love going to London, and I'll
Yeah,
give you a wee
sure.
shout, meet for a
You
beer,
definitely do that.
and if you're up in Edinburgh,
Yeah.
just give me a wee shout too, mate. Okay.
Oh no, definitely. Fantastic.
Honestly,
Take care,
Watson,
Bobby.
enjoy the rest of your night, mate. Okay.
And you, Bobby. Take it easy.
Okay. Bye,
Nice
Gary.
one.